is Adam Song. I'm the owner and founder of Song Blade Company. You can check us out on Facebook under the name Song Blade Company. We're North Carolina's biggest and best retail shop of knives, swords, custom weapons, art, collectibles.
Living with different decisions sitting in my lap, thinking how to flip it and mix it into my raps. Try to pay attention, find the wisdom in the craft. Peace to pioneers who paved the way and laid the path. Tab 1 + 1 mic is good math. My actions a fraction, y'all don't know the half. Oh, for sure, I make it bend like.
So my father, he was always into martial arts. Really, the Song family, my father, my grandfather, his father, they were all judoka originally. Taiwan, of course, was occupied by the Japanese for a long time, and my grandfather had to learn combative martial arts because he was actually a freedom fighter in Taiwan. It's really interesting story. I wish I could have met the man, but never had the chance. But my father, of course, learned martial arts when he was really young. We come from a fighting history, and he kind of passed that down to me. I remember when I was 3 or 4 years old, holding a little plastic sword, and I would be doing little mock combat battles and stuff. It was always a lot of fun. So it was really interesting. My father, in Taiwan, you only got rich or even made a living whatsoever in 2 ways. You were born into a very rich family or you joined the military. So my father, he wanted to join the military because my family grew up very, very poor. I didn't have the opportunity to meet any of my Taiwanese relatives yet, but hope to one day. But my father, after he joined the military, he went to officer candidate school and became a lieutenant. He was actually the combatives instructor for his battalion after he graduated from his special program. I think he served for about 7 years in the military, and when he was done, that was basically the end of his military career. He needed to find something else to do. He wanted to join the police department in Taiwan. He saw some things there that he didn't really like, and he didn't work there for very long. And at that point, he kind of ran out of opportunity. So, like a lot of other immigrants, he wanted to come to the land of the mountain of gold. He wanted to come to the United States, so he actually became a sailor. At that time, Taiwan was still kind of under martial law, so the only way you could leave the island legally was to be like a mariner or a sailor or in the Navy or something like that. So my father was a seaman for, I want to say, a grand period of maybe 3 months, and they randomly stopped in New York City, and my father jumped ship and never came back. It was really cool though. My father, he started doing all he knew how to do. He knew how to cook a little bit, so my father started working in restaurants in New York for a short period of time, moving on here and there, trying to kind of find his way. He didn't have that much money, but I guess a lot of immigrants don't when they come. Wound up moving to North Carolina randomly and meeting my mother in a Chinese restaurant. My father was the head chef at a Chinese restaurant that's now defunct, and it's called the China Inn, I believe, in Durham. And my mother was working as a server there. So a couple years later, I was born, and my dad, he was a very, very happy father. But I actually have a younger sister as well, who was born about a year and 10 months after me. And because of that, working in a restaurant, of course, wasn't going to cut it. My dad's a very responsible, old school kind of guy. So he was like, okay, I'm not going to get ahead. I want to provide the best I can for my children. So he started asking a few of his Asian friends, you guys know any other way to make any extra money? Maybe we could do business or something. And one of his friends said, in Las Vegas, a couple times a year, they have a trade show where they show different product that you can buy, you can resell it. So my dad was like, okay, well, that sounds cool. I'll give anything a shot. I've never been that far out in the United States. So my father, speaking almost no English yet at that time, traveled to Las Vegas and was in a whole nother land, even though he'd already been in the United States. And he always told me, he was actually about my age when he came to the United States. So when he got there and saw the lights, he didn't know what to make of it. But at the trade show, there were people selling everything. man, anything you can get at Walmart, they had vendors there selling it. But almost instantly, it was like a magnet. My father was drawn toward this knife booth. People were selling pocket knives and swords and weapons. And I don't know if it was because of his military background or the Song family fighting history, but my dad was like, I need to sell those. So about 25, 30 years ago, my father bought a few pocket knives and kind of went from there. He was just selling a few at a time at first, but started growing bigger and bigger. And now my father and I are the largest supplier, largest wholesale supplier on the East Coast of pocket knives and swords. And our retail shop is currently the #1 shop on the East Coast, selling anything you want to imagine, customize, axes, swords, scimitars, broadswords, whatever, we got it. So we were always drawn toward weaponry, so it was always a lot of fun. He always taught me, to stand up for myself when I was young. I was small, not that tall right now, only about 5'6". But when we were living in Durham, North Carolina, moved to here, and every rich kid in town that was bigger than me wanted to pick on me. So unfortunately, I was a victim of being bullied. Nowadays, I know they say to go tell an adult, but my father was raised a little bit differently. Was raised a little bit harsh, but I very much thank him and applaud him for doing that and made me into the man I am today. After we moved to North Carolina, I was around 10, 11 years old, 4 foot tall, and I went to my father and I kept complaining, hey, these kids at school are bullying me, these neighborhood kids are bullying me, what's going on? And he told me, well, I'm not going to fight your battles for you. He goes, you need to stand up for yourself. I was like, how am I going to do that? I'm so little. There's 4 or 5 of them. He goes, this is what you do. You go up to the biggest one. Find the biggest one. Say, you and I are going to fight. It doesn't matter whether you win or lose, you fight him. After that, nobody will bother you again. So I was a little kid, I was scared, right? But sure enough, I remember about 2 days later, it actually happened. Sure enough, the same group of bullies came after me and took all my guts. And I went up to the biggest one. I was like, hey, I'm tired of you guys bullying me. Let's fight. And I went up and I did a flying sidekick. He was riding a bicycle. I did a flying sidekick and kicked him off his bike. It was like something out of the Karate Kid. And it scared the living daylights out of everybody else. They went running and nobody ever bothered me after that. Again, it was really, really cool. And I told my dad what happened, and I thought he would be really proud of me, but it was almost like he was expecting of me. And he kind of was like, good, you handled the situation exactly the way you should.
Well, I've been in martial arts all my life. My mom really got me started. She's a black belt in American karate. Being born in Brooklyn, New York, you have to have some sort of defense. Even if it's, more of just letting people know you can take care of yourself, they tend to leave you alone. A few times I've had to use it in my life. Sometimes I used it when I probably shouldn't have, hard-headed kids. It's definitely affected my way of growing up, but even what I teach my own kids. I'm a father of 3 wonderful kids. They all have a martial arts sense to them, as far as in how to be a good person, not just running the streets. Don't be a follower, be a leader, but give them a reason to follow you. And my full name being Sugiyama, from my Japanese heritage, stands for tree in the mountain. And on the Japanese sides, we were all craftsmen. We built with our hands. More so, we built weapons, which kind of led me to how well I build weapons, or even customize them now here. I do put a little bit of my soul in everything I make, and occasionally some of my blood, which I have been known to use to mark some of my swords underneath the handles. As a way of, maybe I'll get, down the line, somebody else test it and they'll know it was authentically made by me. But more so just because each piece is special. There are mass-produced pieces, even some that you see here at the shop, but nothing's more important than a personal, customized piece. It's a tradition. You'll see on our sign out front in front of the shop, "Soles Polished Here." That is an Asian custom. When we repair, customize, polish someone else's weapon, we're polishing their soul, because we believe that every weapon made, once it's handed to the person that's getting it, their soul now becomes that blade. I got into actually making knives and swords probably more after I started working here at the shop. I've always known how to do it. How often I made it was a different story. The first one I made while I was here at the shop was actually a piece I made for Adam. It was a custom close quarter combat knife, and it fits his hand, it's sized for him, and that's always the beginning of any of the projects I make. I ask someone his questions. What are they looking for? What do they like about it? What style? What do they want? And the process, I've changed the process a little bit as I've made more. It always starts off with getting to know the person that I'm building the sword for or building the knife for. I try to make it as personal as possible. That's where the uniqueness comes from. The one of a kind type of thing. And I will ask them, how much do you want to spend? There's the tricky part, because that determines what metal I can make it out of, which varies from day to day, the prices of it. But once that's settled upon, then the fun part comes, the designing, the creativity of it. What can I do to wow them? What can I do to give them more than what they were expecting? I don't ever, you can tell me exactly how you want. Somehow I'm going to figure out what you don't want or you didn't know you wanted, and that's also what I give you. Whether it's the way I stitch it, or if I add embellishments or charm hanging off of it that mimics maybe their family crest or something like that. So when they get it, that wow factor's there, and they feel like they've gotten more than what they've spent. And even when they ask or offer more money after I've made it, I don't take it. I've told them this is what I did, because for me, the art is more important than the money. All right, and there's your true craftsman. There's your artisan. All right, there's your Renaissance man. There's your, you're in Imperial Japan. It wasn't about how much that master made for whatever his craft is. It was the fact that people knew to get the best work, that's who you go to. All right, that's the true meaning of being an artisan. It's what Adam and I do here at the shop. The wood, the metal, the sweat, the blood, the work that went into it, all to create one piece that once it leaves my hands, I may never see again. But knowing that it's out there is enough. The injuries I've had, a couple Christmases ago, almost lost this finger on a sword. I just brushed against it after I sharpened it. That took 8 stitches to put that back together. But the doctor did compliment me on how clean the cut was, how sharp the blade was. A knuckle I peeled back on another blade, but it doesn't stop me. If it's your passion, you never work a day in your life, right? And it's what everybody looks for. Adam and I have been fortunate enough to find that. And what's crazy about finding it now is the very first knife I bought on my own, I bought from his dad. I was probably like 12 years old. And I never knew then that this is what it would lead to. Now Adam and I are brothers. I love him just as much as I love anybody else in my family. And I know he feels the same for me. But that just makes us both work harder to either impress the other one or to not let down the other one. That's the difference between us and the apes and everything else here on the planet. We pass on what we know. It's not instinctual, it's taught. It's knowledge and love and passion.
So I think it's really curious, coming from a martial arts family, even knowing my ancestors, their full history, but the Song Dynasty dates all the way back to the 1100s. It's very, very interesting that here we are today in 2015, And my father, being into martial arts himself, being into the military, wound up getting into a business where we sell warfare items. And then he passed on to his only son, the exact same thing, both his love and the knowledge for martial arts, and to the love and the knowledge for the products that we sell. So we're equally as passionate between actual warfare and the history, the love, just the fun of teaching somebody something new about themselves, about martial arts, about warfare, and just spreading the love.